I'm on the phone, Mafia. Untitled. Shut the door, please, after you. Shut it, please. Nicely. Nicely.
And secondly, why do you think it's important for us, with our trading? Because I think there's lots of different ways people can think about that. So yeah, if you can just give that a thought, don't be shy. Just stick something in the chat and we'll have a look. And if you've got any sort of key things that you're worried about or doing about, then put those in the chat and we can have a look. And there's usually a good group in here that can usually help. So feel free to put things in the chat and we'll keep an eye on that. And we'll start again in a sec.
Sorry, can't hear you very well. So yes, that's much better. Oh, yeah, I can hear. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. As long as it's gonna get sorted, please, because
Can I ask, are you Christian? That's me unmuted. Yeah. Okay, welcome everybody. Jason wasn't able to be in front of his computer. As you see, he's still there, but asked me to do a bit. So hopefully I can do a little bit. I had a little bit planned, so but yeah, just wanted to have a look at what people thought, just to start us all off. So having looked through the chat, there's some really sort of interesting stuff and clarity in terms of people looking about making good decisions at the right time, make the most of it, efficiency, a clear head, keep focus. So there's lots of things in terms of here about in the moment. So when we're sitting in front of all of our charts and we're sitting there ready to press the button, how do we stay focused on it? How do we stay concentrated? How do we look at that in terms of making sure that we're making clear decisions, because we're trying to process quite a lot of information really in terms of we've got a very good system of the 3-2-1 and the 4-5-4-3, but we still need to do that analysis that Les talks about, and I think that's really important. And what do we look at? Do we look at the red bars and the divergence and this and that and the other? And there's actually quite a lot to look in there. And how do we keep that clarity? So we use our indicators to really make sure we're using it at the right time and delivering that consistency. I think Jason said about that consistency in terms of longevity. So how do we build our account? We build our account by being consistent. We use the indicators, we hit the trades, we get a success rate. So I just wanted to sort of go over a couple other things, but also to get sort of other please feel free to join. If there's any comments in terms of that, and I'll keep an eye on the chat. Just quickly going through them. Thank you everybody for contributing. And I think so getting in the zone, I think that's one of the best ways of that is how do we make sure we do that, and different people probably do that in different ways. Some people might want to listen to some music, sometimes it's about a thought process, a set of reminders, a set of prompts, if you like, about why you're doing it, and stuff that Jason talks about a lot of this in terms of the focus and the drive, about the motivation for what we're doing on this. It's really about how do we get clarity and look at that, because in terms of what we do, particularly in terms of the trading using our indicators, we need to sort of understand in terms of there's a lot of probability involved in this, and because we've got these very good clear indicators, we can actually make sure that despite the fact that every moment and every trade we enter is a random event, we also know that lots of trades and lots of patterns and everything happens because of in a very repeatable way, because those are being influenced by groups of individuals buying and selling, and therefore it's about different groups of people, and groups of people behave in certain ways at certain times. So therefore we know that these things repeat themselves. So what we do is make sure that we can use these indicators to find the right time, and then we can actually be in terms of the casino, because actually what we've got is indicators that let us get to a success rate that will make sure that over time, if we're consistently using that, we will get a profit, and we'll make our whatever your targets are and whatever your trade targets for the day are, and we can consistently build our accounts and grow our accounts. And it's about that consistency and about that probability. And if your mind isn't in the moment, or it can be a lot of different things, then actually you start making silly decisions. And I've talked about that quite a bit in front of you in terms of the casinos. The casinos, if you learn roulette, they stack their odds, because although every event is random and every event is black or white, there are two green numbers within that, and therefore that means rather than a 50-50 chance, there's a 20/38 chance that the casino will win, and that gives them about a 4 or 5% success rate, and therefore they know if they continue all those set of random events, they will eventually make a 4 to 5% profit. So what we need to do is make sure that we're getting our success rates up and our consistency to ensure that we actually operate on all of that. And that's really where some of this mindset comes in. A couple of people said about emotional detachment, and how do we actually sit there and take away some of the emotions. A lot of us, or I do, certainly when we first started, so I'm about 3 to 4 weeks into this. I sort of shared last week where I thought I was. And you very much sit there and you've clicked the button, and on a 1 minute or even a 3 minute, and your heart's going and you've got adrenaline pumping, and all of these emotions keep coming in about whether you're going to win or whether you're going to lose, and then after the fact. And there's a lot of emotions going on. I think that's because I don't really have the confidence or the consistency yet to know actually I've clicked the button at the right time because everything's in line. So over the course of the last week, I've been doing a bit of work and a bit of analysis to try and help me, so I don't get that huge adrenaline rush every time you potentially click the button, because if you're then overtaken by emotions and the chemicals in your brain, then you start making silly decisions. And the classic thing we talked about that, which is about why on earth did I do that? 10 minutes later, you just look and go, why did I click the button? There's no reason that doesn't fit with our strategy or any of our trades. So it is really about how do we clear our heads? How do we get that emotional detachment from that point? Because if we build consistency through objectivity, and we do objective, we can actually make the trades in line with that. And a lot of us who watch Les and others, when you see them looking at it, and it's very calm, consistent, and watching them, it looks very easy because they're really logically working through it. You can see that, everything's going our way, all the lines are in the right place, and I've gone in for the trade. All of that sounds great in the moment, but when we all know that actually that's a real challenge, because other things suddenly kick in terms of that. So why did I do that? Why did I press that button? I knew that wasn't just because I've sat here for 1 hour and actually the right setup hasn't come along. I've just gone, oh, I need a trade, and you hit the button. Now, when that happens, helping to understand our mindset is also helping to understand what's going on in our brains. And I'll just do a little bit again for people who haven't seen this. But yeah, in our brains, we actually have 3 different brains working at the same time. We've got our human brain, which is us. We've also got our chimp brain, which is the chimp brain is still operating under jungle rules. And is most of all the emotional, thinks in very black and white, and very much uses the fight, flight, or flee response. And most of the time, when you sit back and think, when you start thinking things that you didn't want to do, or start doing things that you didn't want to do, it's usually because the chimp part of your brain has kicked in, taken control, and is doing things that are very emotionally driven and emotionally led. So things like when you sit there and you've lost a trade and suddenly you get angry and you decide to do revenge trade back on the broker to say, right, I'm going to get you back. That's when your chimp brain kicks in. So the good thing about that is understanding that there is that going on, and it is the side of your brain that kicks in, and it is emotional, or anytime they sense danger, because they're very much, the chimp brain is working in that with that jungle rule set, that jungle mindset. The other part is the computer that works in the background, and that therefore runs lots of things in the background. It works 20 times quicker than our human brain, 5 times quicker than the chimp brain, and is where we want lots of these processes to start operating, because the mindset, when the computer comes in, is when we're looking at it in terms of understanding that actually it's running on a lot of autopilots. So the best example of this is for everybody is learning to drive. And I sort of use that analogy for myself quite a lot, in terms of I'm probably at the point where I can now change gear with the clutch fairly okay, but remembering to mirror, signal remover and do the other things is a bit tricky. So that's very much in terms of where that is. And I think some of the stuff we're just going to sort of look at just in a second might help people understand why the practice and the driving and particularly what Blair's and that say about you need to go through and do your at least 100 trades to get that going, because that's where we start thinking about the computers coming in, and it's exactly the same as when we all learn to drive. It's really impossible. The mindset is at any one given time, how are these three brains cooperating or fighting? Because if there is a conflict between the chimp brain wanting to be taking over, then it's much stronger and much faster than the human brain. And that's when you get a mindset that isn't working exactly as people have said. It means that you lose the focus, you lose the objectivity, you're out of the zone. And similarly, then to actually calm the chimp brain down and get back into the moment can be quite a tricky process, because once that chimp has kicked in, it can take quite a long time before we're able to calm it down. And it's almost that process we need to be thinking about, is how do I persuade, how do I calm my chimp down? And there are techniques you can use, which I wasn't going to go into, but we can have a look at that at a later date. So that was the mindset bit. I think one of the important bits to sort of understand is there's the short term and the longer term of this. Lots of people have said about in the moment, in the zone, how to keep focused on the task. There's a very much a short-term element of our mindset, which is that getting ourselves in the right frame, calming the chimp down. And that may be different things for different people. And if people have got any suggestions or how they do that, how do you get yourself in the right mindset? Is it about music? Is it about a set of prompts that you read through that get you think, how do people on this call share their mindset? How do they get themselves in that right moment? Because a lot of this is that short-term mindset. I'm going to sit here, I'm going to trade for an hour, and then probably leave it, because actually then fatigue comes in, and if the human brain reading the computer starts getting tired, and the chimp brain kicks in more. So how is that short term, and how is that short term mindset really operating? But then I think there's also the longer term bit. And I think this is where also, in terms of thinking about that longer term, how do we educate ourselves? How do we develop? What people were sort of in some of the comments said about personal development, and you have to hit your goals, being disciplined. So some of that is that this really in the moment, so getting your head straight, getting yourself into the right zone. But actually we can do some stuff that gives us that longer term mindset. It means when we are in the zone, we're actually managing our trades, our interaction with everything in a more sort of effective way. Got a lot of people have said in terms of in the comments is about making correct decisions, or having the confidence in terms of that, how to be disciplined. A lot of the objectivity, I think, comes from being confident and having confidence in that is the right setup, that is our strategy, I've got the right indicators, I'm very happy to press the button in that moment. We know that we've used the 1 minute for the timing, etc., the entry. So it's about having that confidence really in this. Now, what happens often if we don't have that confidence is the chimp gets in either with an ego, and that's because a lot of the ego sits with the chimp. And it says, oh, go on, you must go, you're the best, off you go, and you end up pressing the button when you didn't really, when you shouldn't have got into the trade. Or it does a lot of things in terms of self-doubt and asks that what if question. Or what if it's not going to be right? What if you miss the trade? We talk quite a lot about on these calls the fear of missing out. That comes from very much that monkey and the chimp brain really kicking in about self-doubt and asking this question, what if? However, I think, and I'm beginning to sort of share this with people, that actually some of that confidence comes with practice. We makes perfect. But why does this actually happen? I was just going to share with you this evening in terms of how do we start practicing, how do we start reacting, and when we get the message in, whether to press the button or not, do we think about the actual autopilot bit? How do we, over the longer term, get our computers to be operating much more effectively and get our trading to the point where we all know, in terms of our driving, that actually it happens 90% of that happens completely in the background, and we just do that, and it's all run by the computer part of our brain on autopilot, and that's where practice makes perfect sort of comes in. Now, I just wanted to share with you in terms of this, the sort of the 4 stages, if you like, of learning. Which is sort of recognise in terms of these are the stages of learning that we all go through when we want to develop ourselves. So the first one up at the top really is called the unconscious incompetence. So that's when we are unaware that we don't know anything. Some of you remember the Donald Rumsford, we don't know the unknowns, and etc., etc. And that's really that first stage of this, when we're completely unaware that we don't know something. Often our sort of confidence exceeds our ability, so we're working on that. And we have little of the skills or little knowledge of what skills that we might need. So when we then move into the next area, which is conscious incompetence, that means suddenly we've actually worked out that we don't know things, and our awareness has grown in terms of our ability to understand that we don't know something. And a lot of us probably feel like that, particularly when we start trading, and there's lots of other people very much looking at, oh, these are my wins, and you look at various videos and lots of people, and suddenly you go, but it's so easy for lots of other people, it should be so simple. And we start to feel really uncomfortable with this, because we suddenly are aware that we might not be that good at something that we didn't realise was important. So I think that's very much for a lot of us at the beginning of this development of our education, if you like, in terms of trading, and suddenly realizing that actually, how do we take this forward? Realizing, but we can improve. And I think this is where it's one of the most important parts, is then how do we actually learn? How do we start developing? And I think the group we've got here is really, really important, because we've got a whole network of people that can help us through this first stage, which is probably one of the hardest parts of learning, because you don't know where you're going next, and you just become aware you're pretty rubbish at something that you didn't know that you were pretty rubbish at. And then we move into the sort of the next bit, which is called conscious competence. So once we've done this and we've developed our skills, and I think we need to remember that trading is a skill. We've got some fabulous indicators, but this is something we need to build and learn. And if we want to put ourselves in the right position to do this consistency, it's something we need to invest in. And different people learn in different ways and different times, but it's something to commit to actually develop, because once we've invested in ourselves, then we'll actually begin to work through into this conscious competence stage. So our confidence is now better. We're basically operating effectively. We're looking at our charts. We're looking at the various indicators. We're knowing what we're looking for. We can see it. We can do the analysis, but it's still quite hard. We're still the human bit of the brain is still running it, which means it's quite hard, because that's obviously the slowest part of our brain. It really takes it on, and we really need to think hard and concentrate on the task inside of us. But we begin to actually realise where we've come from, and this is part of that journey, really. So we've moved from conscious incompetence to conscious competence. We actually have gained the skills, but it's still quite hard work, really. So the unconscious confidence is the last stage, and that's when actually it starts to happen really clearly, really simply, and it's happening in the background. Our confidence and ability have peaked, so we know where we are. You no longer quite have to concentrate in that same way. You just kind of know. You just kind of know that that's the right shape. That's the the sense. And this is when the computer brain really is running things. And again, coming back to the driving thing, we just drive and we don't need to actually think about it. The same when you watch other people experience sort of traders either on the go live or that they can just see, and they're doing it and they're explaining to you, and it looks so simple, but this is about them having developed these skills. And in different people, it will work in very, very different ways. And that's when you then begin to work to. And then if we think about all the things about people's mindset, people have highlighted about the emotional detachment, getting your head in a good space, getting rid of mistakes, getting focused on the task. Well, actually, if we've done the effort and done the training and developed these skills, then actually our brains will be running on that automatic pilot, and we'll be really far more objective in terms of that. So then that was just something I thought may be useful for people to sort of understand. It's quite a good way of describing those different sort of stages in terms of learning. I've been sort of doing that so the last week. And what I've been doing is very much focusing, so these are the sort of charts that I've just put together, but focusing on not looking at any in terms of the my growth or anything like that. All I've been doing is trying to make sure I develop my success rate up to a consistent 80%. It's meant I've actually done quite a lot less trades than probably I have done before, but I've started picking the right ones. It's been, as you can see from the chart there, these are the sort of days, it's been up or down, but in the last few days we're starting, I think, but to get a bit more consistency, but again, I've got less trades in terms of that. But that's the way I've tried to slow myself down, analyze each trade that I do. I take a screen capture and stop, and again, this is another little mindset. How do we slow ourselves down, not get carried away by everything? So every time I just print screen, I've got that saved. I have a quick look at what happened. Was it the right thing? And again, that's just over and over again. I think I'm just educating my brain and developing that autopilot stuff. It happens slowly. Some people this will be completely natural and it really happen quickly. Others it will take a bit longer, but it's worth doing it, and it's worth understanding that we've all got to go on this journey. But we know that if we put the work in, I think particularly if we do the analysis and look at our own trading, then it will be something that a skill that you would have developed, and suddenly you'll be trading with a completely different mindset, and you'll be able to do that objectivity much sort of clearer. So yeah, and in terms of this is the kind of frame I put my mindset. This is something that works for me. This is something I have up just when I sort of start trading. These are the things that I want to focus on. I know what the system is. I've got various ways I do the system. It's better to miss out a trade than lose a trade. There's always another setup coming along. So all of this is really this sort of keep calm and carry on trading, really. And my target is that 80% win rate, as opposed to looking at that. Because if we get this, the consistency will come, then I can start building my account. I've gone right back down to $1 trades. So the money's not an issue. I think that's really gone back to me is quite an important part, because I was up to sort of whatever my 2% of my pot was. But that made it, I was focusing far too much on that rather than the system and the approach. So that was really in terms of what I was going to share with people. If there's anybody that really can share in terms of what do people out there do for their own in terms of managing your mindset, in the moment. Does anybody wants to sort of share how they get their mindset right in that short term, in that moment? Is it about where you do the trading, how you do the trading? People listen to music? Do people not listen? Do they shut away? How do you get that time and that calming music? Remembering the goal I'm doing it for. If people wanted to, can you unmute? Make any comments or anything else, it'd be really useful to, I think, share this. There's no right answers to any of this. It's very much developing our own style, because what we're doing in this is often persuading our internal computer and persuading our internal chimp that this is the right thing to do, and we're both committed to it. When you look at lots of things about developing, learning and training, and some of the stuff that Jason talks about having that focus board, about why are you doing it, what are you doing it. A lot of that is persuading your internal brains that this is the right thing, and therefore we as a group of brains are all committed to it. And that's why some of this, it needs to be your own way and your own shape in terms of that. Has anybody else wanted to share their thoughts about how they manage mindsets, how they have developed over time? Mindfulness, that's living in the moment. Absolutely. Mindfulness is a really important part in terms of educating and training our brain to actually living in the moment. That's a really good one. And the end focus, exactly. In terms of being reminded why we want to do this, and that goes back to the really good stuff that Jason looks at the beginning of most of his sessions, in terms of that why are we doing this, and emotionally why we're doing it, as well as that physicality in terms of the material things. Actually, it's the emotions that you attach to those physical things that actually drive us and make us happen. It's how do you feel if you do get whatever you're aiming for.
Hello, Pete. That's Les. Yeah.
Hello. Hi, Les.
Yeah. Just a couple of the things I was doing, and then I've stopped doing it, and then I've started doing it again. Is basically having like a little confirmation style checklist just to get me mind right for what I'm going to be doing. And I guess you could call it a trading plan. I think sometimes you come. I generally trade in the afternoons. I don't do too much on a Monday, but I generally trade in the afternoons. And what I've started doing is just maybe checking a few things off just to get my mind right, to focus on the task in hand, which has been mentioned there in the chat. And basically, some of the things I do is, what am I going to do? Which pairs am I going to trade? Why am I going to trade them? And it's all to do with maybe looking at the markets, getting a feel for the charts, if you like. And it's quite easy to do, because if you look at some of the higher time frames, you can get a feel of the direction in which the market's going in. And I know we're trading trend reversals and pullbacks and retracements and whatever else we're doing. But it's always a good idea to understand which direction the market's going in. When we are placing our trades, whether we're buying, selling, or calls or puts, or we're getting in at the right point, or we're recognizing support and resistance and stuff like that. Is there any market pullbacks? For example, breaks and retests, did the market exhaust and stuff like that? I'm just reading this off the checklist I've made. And one of the things I've started to look at more, which I'd stopped doing, but I've started doing again, was has the market or price, has it broke any previous structure, i.e. any previous highs or lows and things like that. That just gives me an idea. And what that does is it puts into my subconscious, basically into the back of my mind, that maybe I need to be really careful. Like, for example, if it's in an uptrend, I need to be really careful about trading pullbacks, if you like, if it's in a strong uptrend. Because sometimes you get the alerts, the indicator will tell you that the trend is going to reverse, but it doesn't hold it long. It's only brief, and then off it goes again on its way up to wherever it's going to go to. So there's a few of those things I've started to introduce, and that just helps me focus a bit, because what I was doing is I was tending to just switch the computer on, get the indicator up, get me currency pairs, 12 currency pairs, right, let's see what's going to happen today, and just jump straight in and start saying, right, I'm going to take this trade. Looks like it's setting up nicely, and I haven't had that analysis, if you like. It only takes a few minutes. It only takes about 5 minutes to do, really, to look at something like that. But I find if I don't do it, I tend to switch on, wait for the alert, it goes off, right, this is it, I'm in. And sometimes that, for me personally, I think that's a little bit of a bad habit to get into. It just like eases us into the trading type thing for the day, if I'm going to trade for an hour or something like that. So that's something I tend to do just to get my mind right. I've started doing that again. I used to do it all the time, but I stopped doing it, and then I've started doing it again. So I just thought I'd add that in.
No, that's really helpful. I think, particularly, it's so easy to flick it on and you suddenly see, oh, well, you've got an arrow going down, and you jump in and you just think, oh, and you haven't been through any of that that checklist, if you like, in terms of what we're looking for through the trading and that, and slows some of this down, I think. I've got, and again, these are the ones I sort of I've drawn out that help me in terms of, it's like these are the sort of checklists, if you like, in terms of this is for the 3-2-1, and this is the sort of the 5-4-3, and this is just about me helping train my brain, really, how I got, the up down alert, is there divergence, was there a pivot high or low, and then is there actually momentum? And this is just another thing that I've got in front of me that helps me in that moment to go back, oh right, yeah, no, let's just take a second to go through it, take your time, just see if this is right, and oh yeah, I haven't forgotten about the AO MACD dot or whichever one of those. And again, it's just this I find is useful because it just helps that education thing, as well as it's that practicing, and I think in a very visual way. Other people might want to write a list or something like that, but I think having these bits of paper and slowing yourself down and stopping yourself and going back. I can't remember, people have talked about particularly some of the go live, the elite and in the academy, and will always be analysing their trades from the day before, understanding, why did I do that? Was that just one of these random events, everything was right and something happened, or actually, oh yeah, I didn't have divergence on that. And again, that's why I'm sort of trying to capture a lot of my day, the trades, to make sure, okay, is which one of these things really makes a difference, and which of these are definite. If I'm not going to, if the AO MAC dot is not in place, then that's a no. We just don't do any of the other analysis, for example. But we all have to develop the way we trade in our own way, because there's probably lots of people on here that try and use the same indicators but are doing something quite differently, and that's how we have to develop our own. Is there anybody else that wants to sort of share in terms of any ways that they think about their trading or music, or say, I like the mindfulness thing. I think that's a really, really, really good thing in terms of something we can practice that helps our brain function in a slightly different way. and something people I think could look into. Anybody else? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, again, I hope that's there been useful. Again, if you are struggling, I think do reach out to people. There is this group, and I think some of this it can be quite lonely, sort of the trading bit, particularly if you're watching lots of videos and seeing people, and it feels like everybody else is doing this really easily. There are some great people that you can reach out to that can sit down and help you, and probably a lot of reassurance about where you are, because some of that we need to know where we are in those learning cycles, because we feel like we should be much further ahead because everybody else is, but actually you need to go at your own pace and your own time. So yeah, do reach out. This is a fabulous group. There are a lot of great people that could help you and help you through this development, and yeah, hopefully that's been a useful session. Anybody else got any cool bits? Okay.
Awesome, Peter. Thanks very much, mate.
No, absolute pleasure.
Brilliant as always.
Keep calm and carry on trading.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.